And we're back
with episode 58 of The Horror Guys. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
We're here to talk about horror movies.
Got 4 good movies and a short for you this week.
Well,
good might be debatable. We'll see.
4 movies. We saw them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our usual spoiler-intensive reviews coming up.
Yeah, you are warned. We may spoil. We probably will spoil.
Yeah. We always spoil.
Yeah, we're spoilers.
All right, well, this week, we're going to be discussing some great modern horror and some older horror. Mm-hmm. We're going to look through The Dead Man's Eyes of 1944, The Gorgon from 1964, the remake of Pet Sematary from 2019.
Brand new.
And one called Kairo, or Pulse, from 2001, Japanese.
Japanese with subtitles and stuff.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get to it.
So first we saw Dead Man's Eyes, eh?
I don't know. I didn't see it. My eyes were dead.
1944.
Yes. Directed by... Did you like it?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I think it was probably okay. The cut that we saw was so jerky and so awful.
It's video quality. You can tell. It's not like there's special effects. You know what was going on.
Yeah, but it was giving me a headache watching it. So most of I looked away at my pad screen. And it sounded okay.
This is not one of those that's easily available on DVD.
Not easily available, and there's no good copies out there. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think we saw this on, what was it, YouTube?
Was it?
It may have been off of YouTube.
Yeah.
Some of these you just can't get a good copy of anymore.
And it was like somebody recorded it off a VHS machine that was malfunctioning. It was just it was
recorded on
It was a steady stutter, a steady vibration.
Of course, we've had episodes of the Horror Guys podcast that look like
which
that.
have done that. Yeah.
They knew better in the 40s.
So anyway, it's hard to, it was. Yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't bad, but I wouldn't recommend watching it. If that's the only copy you can
solidly
find.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
Directed by Reginald LeBorg, written by Dwight V. Babcock, stars Lon Chaney Jr., Gene Parker, and Paul Kelly. 1 hour, 4 minutes, and there's a link in the show notes.
It was another one of Universal's Inner Sanctum series.
Yeah, there were 6 of these.
So we get the introduction by the floating head.
Yeah, we saw the Calling Dr. Death a few weeks ago, and that was the first one in the series. And this is the third one of the series, and I don't know what the others are, so maybe we'll see them, maybe we won't.
Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah. Something to look up another time. Well, we're once again welcome to the Inner Sanctum by a mysterious head and a crystal ball, just as we were with Calling Dr. Death. This is the third film, and didn't we just say all this?
Mm-hmm.
This is the third film in the series. The head says something creepy that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, and we quickly move on to the credits.
It's very
pointless.
Outer limits-ish kind of introduction, Yeah.
Come in and say something creepy, then move on to a story, and the two things could have been recorded completely independently, and doesn't matter.
Yeah, the intro has nothing to do with the story at all. Yeah.
Lon Chaney is Dave, an artist, and we see him painting a very realistic-looking portrait of Tanya. His girlfriend Heather will be arriving in just a minute. We see him pour some boric acid on little pads and cover his eyes with them.
And had to look that up. Boric acid in a diluted solution really is an eye soother and eye sanitizer. And,
is it still something people do, or was this just a 70 years ago kind of thing?
I bet it's a lot less common, but it's still a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, he then wipes his face and lets Heather in. They're going to go have dinner with her father, who is very rich. Tanya comes in, and she's clearly jealous of Heather. Still, she's a good model, and Dave expects that this painting will make his career take off. We then see Tanya pulling the bottles out of the cupboard to reach the gloves in the back. She then places the bottles back on the shelf, and we know darn well she got it mixed up.
And of course, the eye soothing, acid formula would, you'd keep that on the shelf next to concentrated sulfuric acid,
In the same shape of bottle.
Same shape of bottle, with musty old, labels. And it's just the thing to do. Safety first.
Cleaning fluid right next to the fruit punch.
But anyway, she does a little shuffling, and he's just so used to grabbing the same bottle that, guess what happens?
You betcha.
Yeah.
He burns his eyes out.
Yeah.
He rubs his eyes, then pours the bottle on the pad just like the previous evening, only this time he uses the acetic acid, which burns his eyes out. He's blind.
Oh, it's acetic acid?
It's acid.
I missed that. The specific kind. I thought
It's
it was
acid.
sulfuric acid.
Yeah.
The kind you're not supposed to put in your eyes.
The kind that burns your eyeballs out.
Yeah, that kind of acid.
And he's got like this weird white of his eyes shot that looked kind of creepy for 1944, but probably just him going, or something.
Yeah, probably. He wore sunglasses after that.
One more time.
Or bandages. Yeah.
That one's for the YouTubers.
Excellent. That one's a keeper.
His mental state will not be good for a while, says the doctor. Tanya admits she switched the bottles by accident, and Heather's father is very angry. Alan, the psychiatrist, is there as well. She seems convincing that it was an accident, but was it really?
Was it?
We'll find out.
I'm not convinced. I wasn't convinced.
I wasn't convinced.
As soon as I saw her shuffling the bottles, I was thinking she's doing that on purpose.
Well,
She's not just cleaning.
The doctor suggests a new procedure called a corneal transplant. There's a slim chance it could work for Dave. And where do these eyes come from? A dead man.
The dead man's eyes.
And you looked it up. Corneal transplants had a history.
I did. Because I didn't realize they had started them that early. The first one was really done in 1905 in the Czech Republic. It was kind of iffy, I guess.
And it worked? Okay, iffy.
It worked, and it didn't work well, and they had to do it from like living donors. They didn't at first do it from dead people.
Well, I would assume if they were
that
dead,
took 'em a
it
while.
wouldn't work real well.
No, that took them a while to work out.
Real fresh.
The 1931, a Russian surgeon was the first time to use a deceased organ donor, a deceased person, and they really had it down by 1936. But the idea of a tissue bank and bank donation wasn't until 1955.
Yeah, and where did they get these eyes is a plot point we're about to get to.
Yeah. So, getting them from a dead person in 1944 was a new idea, but the corneal transplant itself was not.
Medically not science fiction.
Yeah.
Well, Dave sits alone and laments that his painting career is over. He tries to break it off with Heather by explaining that he's in love with Tanya. He's not really. Heather blames Tanya for the accident, but Dave says it was just an accident. Heather's father, Dad Hayden, stops by. He's old, and he says he's made arrangements with his lawyer to give Dave his eyes when he dies. Dave really does not like the idea. Tanya comes in, but Dave isn't really interested in her. Tanya then calls Alan for help. Alan explains that he loves Tanya, but she wants Dave. As long as Dave is blind, he'll never go back to Heather. Dave feels bad about how he treated old man Hayden. He tells Alan that he'll go over there and make up with him tonight. Dave realizes then that if Dad Hayden dies, he has a chance of seeing again.
And guess who turns up dead?
Meanwhile, Nick, another guy we're just now meeting, proposes to Heather, but she's still in love with Dave too.
It's complicated.
Everybody
love
loves
is hard.
Dave.
Love is hard in this movie.
And blind.
Yes.
Heather dumps Nick and heads home. She finds Dave there, and he says he found Dad Hayden's body. Heather thinks Dave did it, and he's arrested for murder. They still plan to go ahead with the operation, since Dave hasn't actually been convicted yet. Alan doesn't believe Dave is guilty. The doctor is picking up the eyes at the morgue, and Tanya steals them out of his car. Alan confronts her, and she gives the eyes back. Will the dead man's eyes restore Dave's vision? Ooh.
She has her father's eyes. Give them back!
It's all very dramatic as the doctor cuts the bandages off Dave's eyes. You've seen that scene 1,000 times before. He still can't see, but the doctor tells him, well, give it some time. It turns out the police have arrested Nick for the murder, so there's some doubt about Dave's guilt now. They don't take him into custody because they've got a better suspect.
Who done it? It is a little bit of a murder mystery.
And at this point, it's not really clear who done it. Could have been Dave to get the eyes. It could have been Heather to get Dave fixed. It could have been a lot of these people.
Multiple suspects, yeah.
He finds a nail in his pocket that he remembers picking up from the floor near the body. Detective Drury comes by asking about Tanya. Dad Hayden didn't like Tanya much. Could she have killed him? He thinks Tanya likes it that Dave is dependent on her. He knows Tanya briefly stole the eyes. Dave now suspects Tanya of something. He knows she's been spying on him, and he shows her the nail. She gets upset and storms out. Nick catches Alan and Tanya having dinner together. Tanya calls Heather on the phone to tell her who killed her father. She almost explains it all, but she's killed before she can reveal it.
And she is no longer a suspect at that point.
No.
Yeah. Unless, it's a cover-up.
Yeah.
Somebody killing her to cover,
Drury explains what
Still
happened to
don't know
Dave,
who done it at that point.
and he notices something funny about the painting of Tanya. Drury thinks Dave can see. Alan, could he be faking it?
Could he be?
Alan,
A wet paintbrush, and there's little.
somebody's been working on that painting.
Little hints, that
Or could somebody have been putting paint on there to frame Dave?
Yeah.
Alan confronts Nick, accusing him, but Nick denies it all. Dave goes to see Heather. Sounds like a soap opera. So many people doing these things with other people. Too many names.
And that really was part of the reason it was more of a thriller and a mystery than horror.
Yeah. Dave goes to see Heather and ends up fighting with Nick in the dark. Nick swears Dave can see. He caught Dave going through Old Man Hayden's cane rack. Blind man searching for canes. That wouldn't happen, would it?
Where'd that nail come from?
Dave, on the other hand, accuses Alan of murder. And he's like the only one who wasn't a suspect. Dave shows him the nail, which was missing from the head of Alan's walking stick.
Aha!
Alan beat Hayden to death with that stick, and the nail fell out. Alan wanted Tanya, but Tanya was obsessed with Dave. Unless Dave could see, Alan would never get Tanya. Very soap opera.
Complicated, yeah.
Alan admits it all and attacks Dave, who reveals that, yep, he can see now.
Surprise!
Drury comes in and arrests him. Dave and Heather live happily ever after. With eyes.
Mm-hmm. They can both see.
I didn't really notice it for Calling Dr. Death a few weeks ago, but both these movies feel a lot like a made-for-TV kind of movie. Just a handful of sets, no outdoor scenes. It's all done on a small sound stage, and it is very soap opera-like.
Yeah, very much.
The basic plot structure was surprisingly similar to Dr. Death, just with a few alterations. He finds the clue, the thing in his pocket that he picked up while he was there. Both movies. The detective seems to know everything in both movies. They all admit it right before the end in both movies. It's like the same outline with certain details changed.
I wouldn't be afraid to guess that all 6 of them are like that.
It did have different same director, but different writers. But yeah, they're very similar story beats.
Yeah.
And there were no real hints or foreshadowing so that we could know who did it, other than by process of elimination.
Yeah, it wraps up both of them very quickly at the end. Yeah,
Wasn't much of a whodunit either.
Up, happy ending.
It was more just a matter of watching the story unfold.
Yeah.
It was decent enough, but not great.
Yeah.
You're never going to get over that awful copy.
No. To watch.
Then we watched The Gorgon. 1964.
She ugly.
And this was a really good looking copy. This unlike The Dead Man's Eyes, this was really sharp.
The movie was gorgeous, yes.
Yeah.
The Gorgon was ugly.
In all the ways that you don't
But
want.
yeah, especially after watching that one, it's so sharp and clear and in color.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it was in the 60s.
Beautiful.
They took care of movies back then, for the most part.
Yeah, it was a thing of beauty. Yeah.
Directed by Terrence Fisher, written by John Gilling and J. Llewellyn Devine. Stars Christopher Lee, top billing. He's in it for about 20 minutes. Peter Cushing, who's in it throughout.
Yeah,
and Richard
he's really
Pascoe, who is the main star and gets third billing. Hour 23 minutes. Amazon link in the show notes. Did you like it?
Overall, yeah.
You just said it looked good.
Yeah, it did. Overall, it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, looked good.
Did you? Huh? Yeah.
Cool sets, cool costumes, cool. Well, not so cool.
These sets were so cool they used them in other movies.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Creature effects not so wonderful.
Yeah, the Gorgon effect and
pretty bad.
Christopher Lee is quoted more than once of how much he hated the effect at the especially at the end when you fully see her.
Yeah, it's not
It's
great.
a little cheesy.
Fortunately, you only get
snakes
one good look at the creature at the end, so it's not like it distracts from the whole movie.
Up to then, it's shadowy and don't really see her.
Which is a
which is
problem
part of
in its own right.
Which
You
is
never
part
see
of the thing too, because
actually you don't want to see a Gorgon. It's bad for your health.
Yeah, but you don't know who she is. There's something to that.
Yeah,
because she has taken on human form.
And even when you see her, you don't know who she is.
Right.
Okay, so we're told of Castle Borsky.
Borsky.
Is that Swedish?
I had to say that.
Borski. Outside the town of Van Dorf, which is exactly the same model used as Frankenstein Castle in The Evil of Frankenstein.
Yep.
Which, this was a double bill with that movie. So anybody who went in and sat through the double feature, you're gonna notice.
They're gonna say, "Wait, you saw that in the last
same
movie."
Studio, same year, same castle. Mm-hmm. So, from the turn of the century, a monster from an ancient age came to live here, we're told. Bruno, the artist, and his girlfriend Sasha are planning to get married, and she says they can't wait much longer because she's going to have his baby. The two of them run through the woods past the old castle to talk to her father, but as she catches up to Bruno, she sees something and screams. And I think that was the point where the credits started rolling. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Dr. Frank Namaroff is working in his lab, located beneath the asylum. They always had the labs in the neatest places.
It was very reminiscent of Dr. Frankenstein
It sure was.
at times.
They bring in the body, and the nurse accidentally breaks off one of the fingers. Sasha has been turned to stone. We're told that there have been 7 unsolved murders in the past few years. Later that afternoon, they find Bruno hanging from a tree. There's an inquiry, and Bruno gets the blame for knocking her up and then killing her for it.
Natural causes.
Yeah.
Well, they don't mention, and they cover up the fact that she was turned to stone.
Because you can do that. That's a normal way of dying.
It's a cover-up. Well, it's a cover-up. They don't...
Certainly is.
She's... Cushing is doing the autopsy, and nobody else except his assistant really saw it. And, well,
the people that carried in the body,
the people that carried in the body, and
security people.
It's a lot of people to keep a secret, I guess, but they do. They cover it up. They keep it a secret. And what'd he say she died of? The old guy died of a heart attack, he said. I don't think
Namaroff testifies at the inquest that there was definitely violence involved.
Violence,
non-specific otherwise.
Yeah. That Bruno probably must have done it.
Yeah. No one seems to bring up the fact that she was turned into a statue, not even the doctors.
Cover-up.
All 7 murders were the same.
Why are they covering up?
Namaroff's assistant... I still don't know why all of them are covering it up. I know why some of them are covering it up.
Their secret shame.
Why was the police guys covering it up? Why was the judge and the inquest and the coroner? Why were they all covering it?
They were all in on it together, but that is a little unclear why all of them were. Yeah.
Some of them we'll get to.
Yeah.
Namaroff's assistant, Carla, says she must have come back. But before they say any more, they're interrupted by Bruno's father, Professor Heights, who has come to town and now wants Namaroff's help. He asks about the legend of Megara, the Gorgon, who used to be in this area thousands of years ago.
Medusa's sister.
Yeah, there were 3 of them. Namaroff warns him to leave town for his own good. That evening, the locals firebomb Heights' hotel room and try to force him out of town. The police chief is not particularly sympathetic to Heights. Heights then sends a telegram to Professor Meister calling for Paul, his other son, to come see him in Van Dorf.
In a fun side note, the chief inspector was one of the Doctor Who's.
Patrick Troughton, Doctor Who
number 2. Yeah.
And Patrick Troughton was also the rat catcher in the more recent Phantom of the Opera, the color one.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, which was also Hammer. So I don't know if he shows up in any more of these, but yeah, if you like old Doctor Who's cameos, there's one here.
Yeah.
So that evening, Heights hears strange singing. He heads outside into the woods to investigate and winds up near the old castle. He sees a woman with snakes in her hair, and he screams and runs back out into the woods. He writes a letter to Paul before he dies. Kind of slow-acting stoning.
Yeah, his did for some reason.
Yeah. Namaroff puts heart failure on the death certificate, but Paul reads the letter and knows the truth. Paul runs into Carla at Bruno's home. She wants to help him. She believes the spirit of Megara wanders the woods and even comes to town sometimes. She says Namaroff believes in it, but he won't admit it because science. She and Namaroff talk that night, and he does agree that he believes it. He thinks that Megara has taken on human form. That very night, Paul sees the reflection of the Gorgon in a pool and in a mirror.
Luckily, it was just a reflection, though.
Yeah, it does make him pretty sick.
Just stuns him a little bit. Yeah.
Makes him sick, but does not kill him. It does kill one of the asylum patients who had gotten out that very same night. Paul sleeps for 5 days, but when he finally awakens, he vows to kill the creature. Nemiroff calls in the head of security for the asylum. Don't let her out of your sight tonight, he commands.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them clearly have a secret that they're sharing.
Yep, something's up there.
Paul digs up his dead father and sees the condition of the body.
That was no heart attack. Yeah.
Paul asks Carla to run away with him, but she just can't. Not tonight, anyway. Professor Meister comes for a visit from wherever he came from, and he comments on how old Paul looks now. He didn't turn to stone, but his hair's turned gray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it aged him up.
Yeah. Meister and Paul go to the police and learn that the murder started around 5 years ago, just coincidentally 2 years after Carla moved to town. 2 years? That's not necessarily a pattern.
It's not much of a pattern.
Nemiroff tells Carla that there are times when she shouldn't be alone. And everything's starting to look like maybe it's Carla now. She thinks he's just very controlling and jealous, but there seems to be more going on than that. Paul goes to the castle and he finds Carla there. She's changed her mind and she will go away with Paul. Meanwhile, Meister is snooping around in Nemiroff's office. He finds out that Carla used to be a patient in the asylum. She was a victim of amnesia. Where did she really come from?
I wonder. Who is she really?
Yeah.
It's under the full moon.
Full moon has something to do with it.
It does, yeah. Yeah, they mention that more than once.
Yeah. Just never go outside with the full moon. It's just never a good thing.
Yeah, Medusas, werewolves. You know,
it's all bad.
Yeah.
Nemiroff comes around looking for Carla, and Meister has to deal with him. Meister thinks that Carla is Megara, but Paul doesn't believe it. Paul says he's going to go out that night looking for Carla, so Meister bitch slaps him some sense into him. But Paul sneaks out anyway. Whack, whack!
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah,
it's like that Batman and Robin meme that goes around.
Yes.
I'm going to go out and look. Bap! Well, he gets to the castle where he finds Nemiroff waiting with a sword. They fight. Nemiroff wins, but sees Megara, which goes badly for him. Megara comes up behind Paul, but Meister comes up behind Megara and beheads her with Nemiroff's sword. The Gorgon's head then changes back into Carla's face, removing all doubt.
Poor Carla. Yeah.
The sets, especially inside the old castle, are very colorful and intricate. Christopher Lee's wig and Peter Cushing's mutton chops are competing for a ridiculous prize.
That was a wig?
You think?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious a hairpiece.
Yeah, they were both looking kind of ridiculous in this.
I don't know. You think his mutton chops were... I think
they were real. I just don't think they were very good.
Yeah, but I think he really grew those.
Yeah, it takes a certain face shape to make mutton chops work.
They didn't work for him.
No.
But I think they were real. Christopher Lee's hair on the other hand.
That was a wig.
That was a hairpiece. Yeah.
And it was totally unnecessary. What difference did it make what kind of hair
he could have had... Yeah, not at all. But
Cushing was trying to get away from Frankenstein, which was the same year. So he was trying to look different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess they were sure Christopher Lee, too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they got a different actress to play Carla and the Gorgon, which was odd and unnecessary. Because we only see the Gorgon right at the end, and we know it's Carla by that point.
And Barbara Shelley was saying how she wanted to play the part of the Gorgon as well.
She wanted to wear real snakes,
and
the budget wouldn't let her.
Yeah, she had this idea of real snakes in her and it would have probably looked better.
It would have been really gross. Wouldn't have volunteered for that.
Yeah.
Well, the snakes on the Gorgon's head were poor plastic models, and it was not at all convincing. Yeah, it was a really, really bad creature.
Yeah, a little disappointing for that. Yeah.
Paul and Meister are clearly the heroes of the story, while Nemiroff is the villain here, protecting the monster, of course.
Yeah.
Still, Nemiroff was only trying to keep the woman he loved safe and to keep her secret. He never killed anyone, and it's not clear that he even believed in the Gorgon until near the end of the story. Still, he gets the unfortunate title of villain for this film simply because the story is told from Paul's point of view. The story could just as easily have been told as a tragedy from Nemiroff's point of view. These people came to town and killed my girlfriend, the monster.
Yeah.
And it might have actually been a better movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good. Watch it.
Yeah.
See any shorts this week?
Yeah.
Actually, we saw 2 shorts this week.
Did we?
We just watched on Netflix.
Oh, that.
What
that's
did
horror?
Jack... No,
You
it's not
consider
horror.
that
No, that's not officially, but we got to talk about that one.
We should, because we just saw it.
What Did Jack Do? By David Lynch. It's a Netflix exclusive, so you got
17
Netflix, just watch it. It's
It's
good.
17 minutes long is all.
If you've ever seen any of David Lynch's work, this is typical for him. It's a black and white film of him having a conversation with a monkey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a back and forth detective noir story, basically. They talk tough to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
Not even remotely horror. It's more comedy,
Just
crime drama.
comedy
kind of
weirdness.
Thing, it's
yeah.
good. Watch it.
Uh-huh.
And the song is something too.
Yeah. If you see the preview, you'll see the song we're talking about.
Don't watch
that's
the
in
preview. The real show's
You
only
should-
17 minutes.
Yeah, just dive
watch
into
it blind.
without the preview.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. We're not even going to spoil that more than that, are we?
Yeah. But for our official short this week, we watched one called Chromophobia from 2020.
I liked this one a lot. This is one I'd give a 10, I think.
This is really good,
It just
yeah.
really grabbed me. Really, yeah.
Very well acted, very well
creepy and good effects. And,
photographed effects.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
uh-huh.
good all around. There's a link to the YouTube, but
Good-
you watch it on YouTube.
good
There's a link
use
in
of
the
color,
notes.
yeah,
Yeah.
or lack of color. Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
Written and directed by Keith Adams, stars Marjan Neshat and Patrick Carroll, probably mangled that. 11 and almost 12 minutes. YouTube link in the show notes.
Don't spoil this one too much. Don't spoil it completely.
All right.
Don't spoil it completely.
I
for
won't.
these
I
nice
won't
people,
spoil.
because
Yeah.
we're recommending it so
Right.
highly that they see it.
Spoiler. No spoil. No serious spoilers.
Chromophobia means fear of color.
Yeah.
There's a mental patient who's afraid of colors.
We see an artist studio in an old house. The artist draws a house, then drips a drop of blood on the paper. We cut to a man bleeding to death in a lonely hospital ward.
And it was
Before
neat.
the credits even.
There's really red of blood is the only vivid color in it. Really,
It's very washed out looking.
very
yeah.
washed out, black and not quite monochrome. It's not black and white, but it's really washed out except for vivid blood.
Well, the men come to wheel the dead man out, but they know Dr. Haver did her very best to save the man. She's upset because she missed the signs that he was going to commit suicide. And she works in a mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
She then gets a new patient, and this one is supposed to be a talented artist. He draws the same picture over and over again. There's a confused psychiatrist montage as she talks to him and changes his medication trying to cure him.
And he says that's not going to help.
Finally, he draws something new, but only once, because she's gone. He later adds that I mustn't give in to the color so easily. Color demands sacrifice. Still, she wants him to start drawing in color to see what happens.
Color makes
So
things
he sends her
happen.
to pick up the supplies in his studio at home. She doesn't like what she finds there.
Nope.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought this was really well done. Sharp, clean cinematography, really good acting, realistic but not excessive gore, and a mystery to be solved. And I think this could have easily been expanded to be a full-length movie. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a very simple plot. You know what's going on, basically, by the end.
Yeah.
But this could be expanded and, I don't want to say fluffed out, but it could have been a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely worth 12 minutes.
Yes. Yes. Check.
Little more debatable might be our next movie.
The remake of Pet Sematary. in
First Pet
2019.
Sematary was from 1989, and I think everybody's seen that. Everybody on Earth's seen that by now, and it's really good. Pet Sematary from 2019. What'd you think?
I liked it.
I liked it too. I don't. I'm not going to necessarily argue that it was necessary
Well,
or
there's-
that it was maybe worthwhile, even. But I was entertained throughout.
Oh yes, definitely. But there's things that I liked better about the first one, and things I liked better about this one.
Time for a third reboot,
Mash the good parts together.
or just everybody dies.
No, well, it's sort of how this one ended.
Well, now who's spoiling?
This one diverges from the book more than the first.
And
version
diverges
does.
from. It's very similar to the first movie, but it diverges in some strange ways. Directed by Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmeyer, written by Stephen King and Matt Greenberg, stars Jason Clarke, Amy Seimetz, and John Lithgow. Hour and 41 minutes. Amazon link in the show notes. And we zoom in on a farmhouse with a bloody handprint on the car windows and a trail of blood leading to the door.
So we kind of see how it ends at the very beginning.
Well, it's not clear if that's the end of the movie or, something happened to the family that lived there before at this point. We don't know.
But at the end, you realize
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we flash back to a happy family in the car, moving to their new home. They're moving to the small town of Ludlow, which I assume is in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's always in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
We see that their new house is the house we just saw with all the blood. A semi-truck zooms by out of nowhere, the first jump scare of the film. Dr. Creed goes to work while his wife Rachel starts the job of unpacking with daughter Ellie assisting. They hear drumming and see a parade of creepy children in animal masks pushing a dead dog in a wheelbarrow. Ellie runs off to follow the other children to the pet cemetery.
Which is spelled wrong.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many times have we searched for pet cemetery and can't find it because the movie is spelled wrong?
Yeah.
There's a mountain of old dead wood behind the cemetery that Ellie starts to climb when she gets scared by an old man. The old man is Judd, and he's their neighbor. He
John Lithgow.
Yeah. He looks a little nervous to be there, but otherwise he's not too upset about life in general. That evening, the two parents have to explain all about death to Ellie. Rachel then flashes back to her own terminally sick sister, whom she had to care for as a child. And I thought that part was pretty much just like the original movie, the same.
And out of the book, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Next day at the clinic, the doctor is bored treating mildly sick people when an emergency comes in.
Up to a certain point, it's pretty much like the book and the movie.
Actually, at this point, I don't think there was any divergence. It's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
A guy gets hit by a car and dragged underneath, and his brain is hanging out, and the guy dies before the doctor really has a chance to do anything. A minute later, Dr. Creed sees the man sit up and say, "Lewis, the barrier was not meant to be broken."
And this was one of the things I liked better in the first one. Arthur, the dead guy, keeps appearing to him, trying to warn him. You tried to help me, so I'm going to try to help you.
Here he only shows up twice.
He doesn't show up nearly as well or nearly as effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how he was in it much more in the original.
I never thought the part was necessary. I think they could have done away with him entirely.
It's part of the book, though.
Yeah, well, he doesn't listen to the warning. The warnings don't help him the least.
No,
so...
but he tries, and it's more of a...
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the things I liked better in the original.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lewis hears something outside in the trees at night. He has a dream where he hears the voice of the dead boy from earlier. The ghost wants to help the doctor. He warns him again not to go past the barrier. "The ground is sour," he screams. When Creed wakes up, he finds out that his feet are filthy. Was it just a dream? The next day is Halloween and Judd comes over. He shows Creed that the family cat has been run over by a truck. We get another flashback to Rachel's deformed sister, who was killed in the dumbwaiter. Kind of a weird way to die.
Yeah. The cat was actually played by 5 cats. And there's a lot in the trivia about what they went through training the cats.
Yeah, I would not have thought training the cats would be that difficult.
Getting them gradually used to the makeup and the glop that was on them and behaving, and it was interesting.
Yeah, we see Rachel's deformed sister killed in the dumbwaiter, and Rachel still feels guilty about just not carrying the food up to her sister personally, but she was creepy and she didn't want to.
And that was different from the book.
Yeah.
And the movie. First movie.
I read in the trivia somewhere that the director or somebody knew someone who was actually killed in a dumbwaiter.
A waitress.
And they wanted to put that in.
That made them think of it, yeah.
I don't know how you do that.
Trip and fall into it?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, as it's in motion or as the doors open? No, I don't know.
That evening, Creed and Judd go out and bury the cat. Creed sees the barrier for the first time, and Judd suggests there may be a better plan than just burying the dead cat, and they both start climbing over the barrier.
Don't do it. I tried to tell him, don't do it. Don't do it. I literally said, don't do it. And they did it.
Yeah, well, the dead guy was saying the same thing. They didn't listen to him either.
No.
They walk a long way through the misty forest and eventually come to an Indian burial ground. They bury the cat, and Judd remains mysterious. The next morning, Ellie says she saw the cat in her window last night. The cat is hiding in her closet, mostly alive now, but really stinky. Creed confronts Judd. Judd explains about the magical burial ground. Creed does some internet research and finds out that this has happened before many times.
And
things you bury come back.
And it's not really an Indian burial ground. It's older than the Indians. They found it. And they're the ones that built the barrier to try to keep people from using it because they knew.
I think in the original, in the first movie, it was an Indian burial ground. In this one, it's actually pre-Indians. The Indians did not like it.
Yeah.
And Ellie quickly notices that there's something off about the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Creed hears something strange in the basement, but it's just a jump scare. Rachel hears something really big up on the roof, and she goes into the bathroom for her jump scare. Next morning, Judd explains more about the history of the burial ground and something about a Wendigo.
Sometimes dead is better.
He explains. That's the next thing I had written.
I know,
here.
I saw that.
Creed dumps the cat out into the woods. And that did is better. I think Fred Gwynn nailed that.
Put it in a live trap and, it
drove it off. Yeah,
and drove it off miles and miles away from the house. Well, guess who comes back?
The cat.
I was thinking that. Like, no, that's no guarantee even on a live cat and a normal cat. Mm-hmm. They're pretty savvy about finding their way home.
At Ellie's 9th birthday party, Ellie sees the cat walking down the street on the way home, and she goes to pick him up. The little brother, Gage, runs into the street after her.
And here's where you think, oh no, Gage is going to get run over, because that's what happened in the book in the first movie.
Yep. Creed rescues Gage from the oncoming truck, but then the truck runs over Ellie. At the funeral...
Well, and it's more dramatic than that, too. Actually, that was a cool effect, too. The truck cab
derailing?
slams on its brakes, and the trailer separates, and the trailer goes flying and hits Ellie. Spoilers.
Yeah. At the funeral, Creed and Judd exchange glances. They both know where this is going. We know where this is going.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Rachel and Gage go to stay with her parents for a while, leaving Creed alone. We know what's coming next, and so does Judd, who warns him about doing it.
Don't do it. Again, I warned him. No, don't listen to me.
Creed puts something in Judd's drink to put him out of the way for the evening, and then proceeds to do it anyway. He digs up Ellie from the cemetery and buries her in the ancient burial ground, knowing full well that she's not going to be right when she comes back, but unable not to do it. He then goes home to wait. He sees that Church the cat has also come home. He also finds bloody human footprints going into the basement. Yes, it's Ellie, back from the dead. He cleans her up, and big chunks of her hair fall out.
Yeah,
she still has staples in her head from where the Undertaker cleaned her up.
Yeah, from where the Undertaker put her head back together. Yeah.
That probably got hurt.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that I liked better, having Ellie instead of Gage.
Yeah, because she was more conversation.
Yeah, more conversation. She was self-aware. She even asked, she kind of remembers the accident. Well, I'm dead, aren't I?
Yeah, it was much better in this case.
And Dad's like, no, you're fine, you're here. And she knows.
The creepy baby from the first movie, waddling around, being cute and stuff, was fine, but I think it was much more effective when the kid could actually speak.
Yeah, I think so.
It was better this time.
And being physically larger, more of a physical threat, too. Yeah.
Rachel gets worried and calls Judd to check in on Creed. She's on her way, but won't be home for a while. Judd tells Creed, it's not too late to undo it. But Creed shuts the door on him. He doesn't want to undo it. On the way home, Judd spots Ellie in the windows upstairs. He goes home and gets his gun, but she kills him anyway.
Yeah, just like in the first movie.
Not exactly.
Well, not exactly.
Close.
Yeah.
Rachel returns and she sees Creed's dirty shoes, and she already knows what happened because he told her about the cemetery with the cat.
Did you catch that when Judd is looking for Ellie in the house, the homage to the first movie?
Yes,
how it happened? Because it happened.
It's right down here.
Oh, you're going to comment that? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so she sees Ellie and freaks out a little bit, but Creed explains about it. She's not okay with things at all. You're not supposed to be doing that. Dead people need to stay dead. Ellie tricks Creed into going outside, and while he's out there, he finds Judd's body. Meanwhile, Ellie and Rachel fight, and Ellie stabs her in the back. "Don't bury me in that place," are her last words to Creed. Ellie knocks out Creed and drags Rachel, guess where? To the burial ground. Creed then wakes up and pursues both of them. Creed is ready to cut Ellie's head off with a shovel, but he gets stabbed in the back by Rachel, who has already returned from the dead.
Reanimated.
They drag him off for his own burial.
And guess what they do with him? Yeah.
Bury him, too.
Yeah.
The next morning, little Gage wakes up in the car. They lock him in the car for safety before all this. And he sees his whole family coming out of the woods, including the cat, walking back from torching old Judd's house. He's the only living one left.
And then the beginning makes sense.
Yeah.
What you saw at the beginning with the bloody little handprint on the car.
And they leave it wide open. They could make a sequel if they wanted to.
Uh-huh.
Well, the creepiest scene in the movie is the kids walking in a procession to the pet cemetery, but nothing at all really comes
Well,
of it.
that's creepy, but it's harmless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
It's-
children
yeah.
are nameless and have no further role in the film. The masks don't mean anything either. It's just a neat-looking scene with no real plot meaning and looked really good in the trailers.
Just kids having like a ceremony kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The movie has a cat in an important role, so of course there are going to be jump scares.
There's
This
always
movie,
cat jump scares. Well, this
Always,
movie
always.
has them. Yeah.
This movie's a little excessive with the jump scares. Some of the jump scares play into people having seen the older film, like Judd's ankle being cut from under the bed scene.
Yeah,
There's a scene where we're looking out under the bed and we see him standing there and you see his bare ankle. And
remember
you
how
know
that
she's got a
happened.
scalpel.
Well, he kicks the bed and she's not under there.
Yeah, that
and you
doesn't
think,
happen.
oh, he's not going to get it in this movie.
So he goes out the door, goes down the steps, and she cuts him in exactly
Yeah.
the same place
But
later on.
she was hiding by the stairs.
So you're like, oh, that didn't happen. And then it did
it
anyway.
does, but-
yeah,
but-
that was kind of neat.
yeah, yeah.
At least not everything is the same as the 89 film, just subtly different. By switching it up to kill the older girl instead of baby Gage, they were able to get her to talk and be a lot more evil and menacing than the little boy in the first film. The ending is a little bit different from the original, just enough to make the film worth seeing, and I'd say it's about as good as a remake can be.
Pretty darn good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely worth seeing.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, that takes us to our international film for this week,
Yeah.
called Pulse.
We saw that.
Japanese word is Kairo, 2001. Directed, I'm not even going to ask you. I guess I have to ask you. Well, let me skip to the very end of my review. I put down a quote here. At the end of the movie, Kevin said, "This is like being punished for something I didn't do." Can you beat your own words?
No.
What did you think of this movie?
That's exactly how I felt watching it.
This is
I
really
didn't-
highly
I
rated.
didn't enjoy it.
It's considered a classic of Japanese horror film. Came out before The Grudge. It came out before Ju-on. Came before The Ring. And it said that this has led to all those other later classics.
Well, I can see, maybe it's historical value because of that. But, boy, it's boring. It's just boring. It wasn't scary. Had some neat special effects, some good acting.
2 weeks ago, we watched Kwaidan, which was close to 3 hours. And we both agree it's very slow. Kevin said it was boring, bored him half to death. And I thought it was very slow, but overall I liked it. I thought it was a good story, even though it took a lot of patience. This turd, no.
Oh, that one was better than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
There's some good points in it. There's some good parts, but it's just so
So
slow.
slow. It's so slow.
Needlessly slow.
Yeah.
There were scenes where people just sat around and waited. Directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, written by him also. Stars Haruhiko Kato, Kumiko Aso, and Koyuki. Just Koyuki.
Now, one thing.
1 hour, 59 minutes.
One thing that was fun, I thought, maybe the only thing fun about it, it's set in 2001. The 2001 computers and internet and technology is very tech heavy. A lot of computers, a lot of internet, a lot of dial up, and seeing what things were like almost 20 years ago. Like, yeah, that's kind of neat.
Tech nostalgia.
Kind of nostalgic for big, great big monitors, not these razor thin
Monitors way more than you do.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Well, we start out with some people in an office are concerned about getting a disc from Taguchi, as their deadline is tomorrow. We don't know who they are at first. We don't know what the disc is about. Doesn't matter. Michi, one of the girls, gets on the bus to go pick it up from him. She lets herself into his apartment and starts searching for the disc. He's standing there silently, and he says he's fine. He then points her to a pile of discs, and she finally finds the right one and comes back to see that he's hung himself just around the corner while she was busy. Credits roll. The next day at work, they take a look at Taguchi's disc. There's a strange photo of Taguchi there, and that evening at Michi's house, the TV goes crazy. Okay. Another guy, Ryosuke, plugs in a Getting Started on the Internet CD-ROM and installs it.
How quaint.
He plugs in the phone line, and he's soon on Uranus Online, an internet provider. I mean, I guess that's like America Online, only from Uranus. I don't know.
I guess, yeah.
He connects and sees images of other people. Would you like to meet a ghost? It asks. He goes to sleep instead. The machine, all on its own, dials back in and reconnects. He wakes up and doesn't like what he sees. He tells some people in the computer class the next day, but they're not impressed. He meets up with a computer tutor, Harui, who helps him with his computer problems. Later on, Yabe gets a call for help from Taguchi over the phone. That's the dead guy calling from beyond the grave.
How's that work?
He goes over to Taguchi's apartment at night and looks around. He then goes into a room sealed with red duct tape and sees a ghost.
Beware of the red in this movie.
That evening, Ryosuke's computer wakes up again and shows him more ghostly images. Yabe warns Mishi not to go to the forbidden room. Mishi then sees a woman jump off a roof. Harui explains that when the afterlife fills up, the spirits have to go somewhere. Is it Day of the Dead? When hell is full, the dead will walk, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was a byline
exactly
for that.
the same
That's the
concept.
premise of this, that the afterlife has a finite space, and after that many billions of people, it starts popping at the seams.
It's for some reason they seem to be spreading through the internet.
Because science.
Don't know.
Because science.
Meanwhile, various people are taping up doors and windows, and other people are untaping them and dying. The menacing ghosts are getting bolder, becoming visible to Mishi and Junko. Ryosuke and Harui have a long discussion about metaphysics and becoming a ghost. Not long after, the ghosts make Harui vanish. We see on the news that lots of people are suddenly missing all over town. The streets are deserted. Eventually, Mishi and Ryosuke team up to figure it all out. They track down Harui, who shoots herself in the head. Soon after, Ryosuke gets trapped in one of the red tape rooms and learns whether or not the ghosts are really real. Not long after that, we see Tokyo in flames because it's the ghostly apocalypse. They get on a boat and sail away to Latin America. The end. See, it took me like 6-7 minutes to read that story.
Could have been a 6-7 minute movie.
It could have been a half hour for sure.
The opposite of chromophobia, where you're saying that
could have been much longer.
Could have been a full length. This could have been a short.
Oh, well, yeah, it could have been.
I think it could have.
This is really slow paced with multiple scenes of people just literally standing around waiting for things. Actually, the first hour and a half is excruciatingly boring, and the last act doesn't really help that much. The scene where the guy goes to the computer lab to get tech support took longer than actually waiting on the phone with a tech support guy from Dell, India. Literally. On the other hand, if you are nostalgic for 20-year-old computer technology, this computer has a lot of it.
You noticed that too.
I'm still not sure what tied the ghosts and the computers together, but maybe the director was just trying to tie two things that people in 2001 were afraid of together. People were afraid of computers and the internet. People are afraid of ghosts.
Let's put them
What if?
Yeah, what if? Yeah.
Actually, there's a lot of things going on in this film that I didn't understand. It might be a language subtitling issue, but I suspect it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't that much there that I could have misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Kevin said toward the end, this is like being punished for something I didn't do. And I'm going to have to leave it there. That just about sums up my thoughts on this one, too. This was really bad.
I don't recommend this one.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go 2 out of 10. Just because the antique computers. A 1, okay.
Okay, maybe a 2 because of the computers. Because of the nostalgia, maybe 2.
Okay. Well, we mentioned links in the show notes for all our movies and stuff, and if you're looking to find the show notes, of course, it's in the audio podcast file if you look for it, or if you want to, go to horrorguys.com/HG058. It's episode 58. Catch any of our old episodes that way. horrorguys.com/HG0 and the number of the episode you want. They're all there for all the show notes.
Yep.
And that is our show for this week. If you want to tune in for next week, we'll have, believe it or not, more movies.
More movies.
Yeah, next week we're just going to play with dolls.
Yeah, it's a doll kind
It's a playing with dolls kind of day.
Yep.
Annabelle from 2015, followed by Annabelle Creation from 2017, Annabelle Comes Home from 2019, and Child's Play from 2019.
A reboot.
And I know you've been waiting for Child's Play.
Child's Play, yeah. Yeah. Well, the previews make it look like a science fiction aspect, and I really generally like sci-fi combined with horror. So
I have not seen any of these 4 movies, and I don't think you have either.
Nope.
And if
We'll
you
tell you all
have,
about
tune in
them.
next week and you'll see if you agree with what we think.
Watch them ahead of time, see if you agree with us.
You betcha.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.